He's probably the best horse that Paul Nicholls has got in his yard as well. So I don't see how he gets him beat.
Hello and welcome to GG Weekend Watch with myself, Kate Tracey, alongside Dave Young and the returning Andrew Mount as well. We were just discussing who's going to be going trick-or-treating tonight. As you can see from the background of Dave when he comes into vision there, Dave is ready to go with mask in order for him. He claims it's for his son. It's really for him. But we've got loads of treats on offer for you. 10 televised races on ITV from Wetherby, Ascot, Down Royal. That's not even to mention the Breeders' Cup stuff from Del Mar later on. But we're going to focus on the domestic front mostly because Andrew Mount, you chose a good weekend to swerve last week. Saturday's racing, as Dave described, as a bit of a bloodbath that it was. But Dave did get the winner with Senior Chief landing feature race at Cheltenham at 11-1. So very well done for that. Few place efforts to boot. We've all been caught. Diego Ventura, Gal Road as well, all just finding one too good. Matty gave us a winner in one of those races too, with La Ballotta seeing off a late charge of Diego Ventura to win at 13-2. As I say, 10 races to go out those, so we better kick on. Right, we're going to start with Wetherby 115, 0-125 handicap chase, 4-year-olds and over 2 mile 3. Right, Andrew, seeing as you are back in the hot seat again, 2-1 the field, I'll let you have first stab.
Well, I'm just a bit disappointed that nobody else got the memo about the Halloween costume.
You said you didn't have anything.
Yeah, come on. I've got kids because I've got Halloween stuff coming out my ears, so I'm just missing a cat though. She's gone missing. She got scared by the hat, I think.
I'm not surprised. Don't blame her.
Yeah, a tricky opener, sort of fairly low-key stuff, 0-125, class 3. I looked at this without looking at any prices, and I was thinking I want to take on Choose the News, and particularly now seeing that he's 2-1 favourite. He's consistent, but his jumping is a little bit wayward still. He has won on a left-handed track, but he does tend to jump out to his right. So 2-1 about a horse under a big weight whose jumping's not entirely foot perfect wouldn't be for me. The two I was focusing on were Tedley, who won at Uttoxeter the last time out. I did some research on last time out Uttoxeter winners because there's been so many who've won under prominent rides or front-running rides of place. I thought surely they were flattered and they'd all be worth taking on next season. But Uttoxeter form has held up really well in the last couple of years. You back every last time out Uttoxeter win, you make a fortune. So Tedley was of interest for Twitton Davis, Yard going well. But the one I'm going to side with each way or probably place only is William Cody. Now, all his wins have come on right-handed tracks, but he was second in this race last year. In all, he's had 4 runs here at Wetherby, third, second, and second. So never out the first 3. He looks an ideal sort of place pot vehicle. Only 7 runners, but I'm guessing that 1 or 2 firms will be paying each way 3 places, or you can go into a sort of pick your own places market or an exchange place only market and go for the 3 places there. So yeah, William Cody each way or place only for me.
15-2 for William Cody on this reappearance up for Andrew. Dave, who'd you like?
Well, I really like Coca Mademoiselle, but she didn't get declared because I think the ground was just a bit too quick. But I'll give her a mention because when they do inevitably put her in a handicap chase, she's going to dot up. For this race, though, obviously there's some proper decent action coming up after. This isn't a terrible race, but it's not as good as some of the other stuff that's coming up. One that I'm going to take a bit of a flyer on is Fusain for Patrick Neville. Brian Hughes is taking the ride. He's got a massive 409-day absence to defy. He was tried in some pretty high company. I'll mention the names of Banbridge and John Bon, albeit he was counties behind those types of horses. He won a novices handicap chase in February off a mark of 115, which is £1 higher than he runs off here. He had Arthur's Key behind him that day. He was giving him a bit, well, I think he was getting £6, but he's on like better off at the weights now. It was only a match race between them two. He jumps pretty well in the main. I think Brian Hughes might just send him off and just see that obviously if fitness is probably a bit of a worry with him having a 409-day absence, they'll just send him off in front and hope that he does see this trip out. I think if he is ready to go, then he probably is one that's got a bit of mileage in his mark. And at 8-1, he's probably worth a small win dart.
A small win dart at 8-1. Only one horse that is a bigger price than Fusain in here as well. Right, that was Wetherby's 115. We'll move on to the 130 at Ascot now. Novices limited handicap chase, 4-year-olds and over 2 mile 3. Now 5-2 the field in this one, but we've only got the 5 runners to go at day. So how do you play it?
Yeah, small field, isn't it? There's a couple of horses that are being thrown out the handicap in here as well. I think maybe both of them are Ben Paulins because Samarrive's in here off of such a lofty mark. I think Samarrive's got a proper chance. He ran in a similar race last season. It wasn't this meeting, but 2 years ago he did run in this race. I thought he had the measure of Gal Road when he, I think he fell, didn't he? Yeah, he fell. So 2 years ago, he would have been potentially winning this race. And obviously 2 years down the line, now he'd be in open company and doing all sorts of bits. So things haven't necessarily gone to plan for him since he's gone chasing. And last year as well, he was out and had that run and then put away a little bit, I think, after. He is only 7, though, for all the fact that he's gone and done lots of racing so far over fences. He's bottom price 5-2, top price 4-1. I've got a feeling this horse is going to be well backed, and I think he's going to go a favourite for this. But given the fact that obviously he hasn't won over fences yet, although I'll give him some excuses, his RPRs are like miles better than what the rest of these horses are doing. He's putting a couple of horses out the handicap, so I think he's got a proper chance. I think he deserves to be favourite. I wouldn't be steaming in for, like I said, the fact he hasn't won a novice chase yet, but I don't see how Samarrive gets beat personally.
Oh, okay. Nicely done there towards the end as well. Adding the firstly bit in, but a confident case made about the top weight. Samarrive for Dave, Andrew.
Yeah, has he changed yards since last time we saw him, Samarrive, or is he still trained by Paul Nichols?
What are you trying to get at? What are you trying to get at?
Well, he's not in the great form, is he, Mr. Nichols? He's what, 4 from 39 this season, 10% strike rate. The expected number of wins based on the prices they've gone off at was closer to 10. So that's a statistically significant sample. You should have been doing a lot better. You'd lose best part of 57% on your stake by backing the blind. I mean, it's weird. He's had some that have been incredibly well backed and finished out the back of the telly. He's had others that have drifted from sort of evens to 5-1 and one on the snuff, but most of them have underperformed. So I'm finding it very hard to be confident about anything he sends out at the moment. Although you'd certainly rather back one of his than Bad, who's got a tendency to find at least one too good. I mean, Bad is the outside of the field for Ben Pauling, but you'd certainly stick him in your place spot because second place is very achievable. I've realised now why it's taken me so long to go through today's runners because I didn't refresh from the 5-day decks, and so I've made loads of notes about horses that are not running here. So authorised speed would have won this. I've got lots to say about Bucky Day Epires, the Venetia Williams horse. So I'll stick with the ones that are actually running. Bhallo's interesting. Bhallo was interesting for Nicky Henderson. He'd beaten last time out, but his record following a defeat is 3 from 3. So he's never backed up a win, but every time he gets beat, he bounces back to win, albeit from a small sample size. So I'm going to go for a Bhallo over Bad in a straight forecast stroke. Exactly.
Okay, all the B's then for those ways to play the race. I know you would have had the guaranteed winners then had those horses actually bothered to line up, but thanks for not going on. Yeah, thanks for not going on to talk about them.
New system, tick the non-runners and then
can't lose.
Don't affect your P&L.
Exactly, yeah. Can't lose if they don't run. Right, Wetherby now, the 150 up there. This is the listed mares hurdle, 4-year-olds and over 2 miles. Now, Andrew, I know I say this every single year, but for some reason, this race, I just have a complete association with it with you. And I believe I'm right in having that association as well. I think you've tipped up the winner like every single year. I might be damning you with faint praise there, but I always associate it with you.
I'll take it. I'll take it. Yeah, let's go back to 1973 to find the last time I didn't pick the winner. I was only 3, so I thought I had excuses. But, yeah, I mean, in fairness, this often goes to one near the head of the market. We haven't had a winner bigger than 6-1 in the last 10 years. We've had a load of favourites in that time. Although Luccia was favourite for this race last year, and she did get beat. She was 11-8, came second. I think she's rated £13 higher now by the handicapper. So officially, she has improved considerably since that comeback defeat 12 months ago. But it's tricky to find what to take her on with. I take no chances, perhaps. We ran a good race in Handicap Hurdle Company at Chepstow on her reappearance. I wasn't keen on Royal Eagle for Gordon Elliott. I thought she needs a big field and a strong pace, and she's not. Although she went close in the field of 7 last time out. I thought they're not going to go quick enough for her here. And the other one I was looking at was maybe Sweet Fantasy for James Owen, but I think it's just going to be very, very boring. Go for the favourite Luccia here over Take No Chances, and You're also looking at the ground as well, because we talked about it previously. When the ground gets on the soft side at Wetherby, the inside gets cut up on the hurdles track, and Harry Skelton's particularly adept at going wide, looking for the better ground. But we're talking good ground, probably no soft in it come Saturday. So I think it could be fairly straightforward for the favourite.
Yeah, that's normally the angle that I associate in this race with you, is Harry Skelton taking that wide route, because the ground tends to be softer at Wetherby at this time of year, but not this time. Good ground, which is slightly made it a bit more formulaic there for Dave.
Yeah, it should be pretty easy. I was pretty strong on Luccia in the race last year, albeit the soft ground seemed to find her out a bit. You Wear It Well is a decent mare, although she didn't really like scale the heights last season, but she was probably the right horse to be on in the last race, even though she got beat, because obviously since then she ran third in a Greatwood. She won a big handicap at Ascot after, and then she did run third to Stateman in the Champion Hurdle on heavy ground. But this is good ground. She's 3 from 3 on good ground. She is obviously an odds-on poach. She's about 4 to 6, top price 8 to 11 at the time of recording. It's obviously very risky with those types of ones to get stuck into anything short, but she's probably as good a short price favourite as you'll see this time of year. So I think Luccia just should win this. Take No Chances probably wants a little bit further, but you know how it always goes in racing, doesn't it? If they look too good to be true, sometimes they might be, but I don't see how Luccia gets beat here.
Oh, so both of you in agreement that she probably is the right price, really. Luccia, the favourite in that listed mares hurdle at Wetherby. Right, back to Ascot now for the 205 Premier Handicap Chase, 4-year odds and over 2 mile 1. Loads of characters we know in here: Master Chewy, Segal, Madara. Loads and loads of horses we know really well, Dave. So I'm sure that this was music to your ears when you saw this race.
Oh yeah, this is GC, isn't it? This is a real proper good race to have a look at and try and find the winner of. I find these types of handicaps at Ascot that you end up with a short list of a few, and then it's hard to whittle it down to just potentially one selection from it. I just want to quickly touch on Uncle Phil that comes over for Willie Mullins and's got Paul Townend on top. Normally that sort of move would make us say, ooh, he's obviously been sent over with a massive chance, but Willie Mullins has only got one runner at Down Royal on the Saturday, another one in a handicap. So I don't know, it's just an option to come over here. They've sent the horse over here a couple of times before as well. I think when he ran in air as well, he was pretty poor. I think he pulled up when he ran there. So as much as he's in this race and he might be exciting, he's a big price, and I'm sure he'll be supported a little bit, I couldn't have him on my mind in the slightest. The few that I could have on my mind, Master Chewy needs a mention, but I think he's marked way too high now. He got beat by Elixir de Nuts, didn't he, in Newbury in a handicap. And I know Elixir de Nuts ran well in the slower chase after, but Master Chewy off a 154, I think he is now. It's just beyond him. I think he should be running in. He should be running a slower chase, I think, rather than running in here. Madara was just 11 to 2 for a Grand Annual. Massively underwhelmed in there, but still, that couldn't have been a true run-in, so potentially we'll be interested in here. Saint Segal's often a horse that needs a run. Ran well in this race 12 months ago behind Boot Hill first time up, but has had a prep run this year. I think it's £1 lower than when it had a second run last season, or maybe the run last season. So Saint Segal, I think, probably does deserve to go a favourite. We'll have supporters, and I'll probably throw a win dart at him. The other one that I'm going to have a small play on, I think, probably like half the amount of stake that I'd put on Saint Segal. I mean, it's good. I'm going to get a load of abuse from Andrew continually for this, because it's another Nichols horse, but it's Matterhorn, right? Because this horse, he bolted up on chase debut, like lots of horses that go to Paul Nicholls. They've got a bit of a hype behind them, and Matterhorn was certainly one of those. Now, I think he won his first chase off of like in the 110s or something. It wasn't a lofty number, but it was interesting when Nico de Boinville was booked to ride him, because I looked at that and thought, I don't really remember Nico de Boinville ever riding for Paul Nicholls, and he dotted up. He did an RPR of 153 that day. Now, next time out, it was in a really small field, but it was still a handicap chase. Was sent off at 4 to 11, made a massive mistake, pulled up. So this is obviously much tougher. This is a much deeper race, and he can't afford to make a mistake round Ascot. But the fact that they've retained that partnership, and the fact that Paul Nicholls would have gone through the effort to, I guess, persuade Nico de Boinville to ride this horse, and Nico de Boinville's happy to stay on top of him, I think it's a big telling sign. So I think that there's still a bit more to come from Matterhorn. He's 14 to 1 top price, which looks way too big not to have a bit of a win dart on. It's just whether he can cope with going this fast, because there's some really, really good horses in it, and whether he might make a mistake. But I think he's grossly overpriced. But Saint Segal's probably the stronger selection of the two.
Probably the strongest selection was Saint Segal then at 4s, but a good case made for Matterhorn. And yeah, Nico de Boinville riding for Paul Nicholls 14 to 1. Andrew, are you going to give Dave some abuse for the Paul Nicholls angle, or leave him alone?
No, there's only so much abuse you can give, David. It just gets a bit boring after a while, doesn't it?
He just takes it so well, though.
I know.
The gent about it.
Yeah, it's fascinating to see Master Chewy run here instead of turning out in a graded contest off that mark of 154. Now he's only won twice from 16 starts. It probably is underachievement given how classy he is. He's not had many opportunities right-handed. He's got a wide margin Kempton win and a 4 when clear at the last over hurdles, I think it was, from 2 runs right-handed. I thought he'd go well, but I couldn't be bothered to back him at 7-2. Segal I'd rather be against, I think, at that sort of price. Like Dave said, he was 6-1 when third last year in this race last year. I think he's been beaten in all 10 starts since, or all 9 starts since, whatever it is. And yet he's being asked to take a much shorter price. Sorry, 6 starts since that one. And he was unlucky behind Boot Hill again at the late November meeting here last year. But there's a lot of jumping errors and a lot of seconds and thirds in his form. And it's 4-1, not for me. We've got to mention Venus, Venetia's first chase runner of November. Regular listeners will know that she's got a fantastic record with her handicap chases in November. Make over 200 quid backing them bottom line to £1 level stakes this century. Poor old Venetia, she had a really wet October, not having any runners, prime them all for November. And what happens? The sun comes out, the ground dries up, and so a lot of hers, I think, are that she was intending to run this weekend and over the next few weeks are probably going to be kept in their boxes. Multitour is interesting, but he's only won in the spring so far, so you just wonder whether he might need the run. And having won on heavy ground, whether it's going to be too dry for him. Madara's is Sheila Lewis retired now because Madara's changed yards?
Sophie Leach. Yeah, so Kieran Berg is now operating out of either right next door to Leach's yard or within it. So Madara has changed the name. So I don't know this for fact.
Probably the same setup but different name on the license.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what's happened. Like say, not confirmed, but I'm pretty sure Kieran Buck is definitely in the same location now as Sophie Leach in the same yard. So whether or not he's just taken over the license, I'm not entirely sure.
Okay, yeah, he was in a process of running a good race and he's come back last year behind Dancing on My Own, went 33-1 at Cheltenham on Cedar. So I wouldn't rule him out entirely. He's been nibbled out. So I had a short list really of Madara, and the other one was Issar Dairy for the Moor Yard. Another one that keep changing the names on the license. I've got to call it Gary and Josh now. Sounds like a couple of bad comedians. Anybody who's back there drifters might not be laughing. But yeah, Issar Dairy's got a good record when fresh. According to his trainers, he's lightly framed and he's not a horse to run back quickly. So I'd take the 194-day break positively, and I'll go Issar Dairy at a big price, around about 16-1 over Madara.
16-1 about Issar Dairy for the main play there. Yeah, Gary and Josh. I don't know if I'd sign up to go and see that stand-up comedy routine if that was their leading name, but I see exactly what you mean with that. Right, Wetherby now at the Grade 2 Western Yorkshire Hurdle for the 4-year-olds and over 3 miles comes up at 2:22. And we talk about horses that we know very well. This is another prime example of which dear old Dashel Drasher is in here at the age of 11, Andrew, and he is 4-1 second favourite.
Yeah, he's the best 2 miles 7 furlong hurdler of recent times. Best 2 miles 7.5 furlong, perhaps. He was beaten in this last year when quite a short price, although it was on softer going. He'll run his usual solid race, and again, he's one of those ones where if there's 8 runners, or you get 3 places, even though there's only 7, you wouldn't be the worst place only type of bet. Katira probably was 3rd last year, and I'm not sure that she's going to stay. That win at the end of last season came in a hot 2.5 mile handicap hurdle at Aintree. You just wonder if this is a prep with a view to rocking up at Cheltenham or Aintree on a favourable mark, or whether the handicap is going to fall for Skelton shenanigans again this season. Perhaps not. Interesting stats regarding last time out chasers in this race. 0 from 17 since Tidal Bay scored in 2013. So, which counts against Sandor Clegane, the favourite, counts against Twig, you just wonder if, with Twig in particular, whether it's a prep before a return to fences. All Mankind's probably not going to stay the trip, although it's been nibbled out of big prices. So I was looking at Beacon Edge for Gordon Elliott. Now, this one rocked up in the Perth Thames qualifier at Cheltenham last week, finished 5th. Very weak in the market. The race was won by a much shorter price stablemate. Now he's had 7 runs in October, 5 wins a second, and that Perth Thames qualifier 5th. So as a horse who traditionally goes well at this time of year, and if we assume that that wasn't the main target last week, then perhaps Beacon Edge could go well at a price around about 16 to 1.
And potentially in different colours again. He's now in the Cheeky Pup Syndicate colours for 10-year-old. Was with Rachel Carthy, Gigginstown, of course, previous to that as well. Now a 10-year-old, but 16 to 1 on the quick turnaround for him for Andrew. Dave, who'd you like?
Well, I'd like a few of them in here. There's some like nice favourites, isn't there? But it's always a little, well, not always, but it's a bit of a disappointing race. I was really hoping that Strong Leader was going to come in here for Ollie Murphy, because then I think we could have been looking at probably a short price favourite that was a fairly strong favourite in here. Sandor Clegane, sorry, I've never been a fan of this horse. I think he's a bit of a boat. And if you look historically at the types of horses that win this, we've had like Prashima, Roxana, I think, won this as well. They're not necessarily like boaty types, and it is good ground as well. So I'd be pretty strongly against Sandor Clegane. Dashel Drasher was really disappointing in this race last year. So again, I don't want him, and he's obviously given bits of weight away as well. Pitira, like Andrew said, I think the marks doesn't represent her actual ability. It's probably a little bit inflated. So as much as she gets like the mare's allowance in here, it's not her ideal trip. She wants to be a little bit shorter than this, I think. So I really do think that Thunder Rock, right? Ollie Murphy had Strong Leader that I really would have fancied in here. And I think Thunder Rock's in here, not necessarily wouldn't have been in here as like a bit of a backup. I think this maybe is an intention for the horse. Well, remember, he was sent off favourite for the December Gold Cup last year. I think Fugitive won that day. They went off so quick and he just couldn't handle it. And he's always been not a terrible jumper, but he's maybe looked a little bit too careful to be going that top high speed. Ollie Murphy looked a bit sulky after the race and was like, well, I'll probably stick him over hurdles now because he obviously can't jump a fence. But they persisted with fences for the rest of the campaign. Now they've obviously decided to come back here. So I get what Andrew's saying about Chasers last time out coming into this race. We had Native River that was second in the race a good few years ago when he was behind Silsol. He went on to run really well in a Gold Cup that year. But I think that Thunder Rock probably could have gone hurdling last year. I think his mark of 149, although it's been reassessed because he hasn't been over hurdles for such a long time, it's probably about fair, although I think he might be, well, he probably is pushing a 150s horse. Smaller obstacles should be fine. Ground will be fine for him as well. So I think that he's got a genuine, like, proper chance. I think he's probably got like a favourite chance in here. And given how well he was backed in that December Gold Cup, if the yard have readied him up and they want him to win this, I think he will get smashed. 9 to 2 at the time of recording looks like a fairly generous price. So I'd be quite sweet on the chance of Thunder Rock. And then I do just need to give another mention. I know Andrew's already said that All Mankind's been nibbled. I don't understand how this horse can possibly stay, but Harry Cobden's been booked to ride him. He had a comeback run after like a 609-day break. I want to say Market Raisin, I think it was. And he was not, I don't want to say like an eye catcher because that's what the Racing Post comments have used, but he ran really well considering he had such a break at the 2-mile trip. I don't believe in any way, shape or form that he possibly stays, but obviously the trainer must think something in it because they're not abusing his mark of 139 to run him in a handicap. They're sticking him in this particular race. He just looks all a bit too curious, and it's making me feel that FOMO that if I didn't mention All Mankind and he won, I'd want to mention him. So I'll have a very small dart on him to win as well, but I think Thunder Rock's probably the right bet in here.
All Mankind's a 22 to 1 outsider of the field, but yeah, Thunder Rock back over hurdles again in that grade 2 of Wetherby. Right, we're going to head over to Down Royal now for the 240, and for good reason. This is the grade 1 Ladbrokes Champion Chase, 5-year-olds and over 3 miles. We get to see Jerry Colomb back out again, and again we've got a small field of runners, only the 5 of them to go at, but fascinating nonetheless, Dave.
Oh, yeah, this is a proper decent race. Jerry Colomb obviously picked this up last year. It was soft ground last year. Beat Envoy Alam by a neck. Was staying on late in the closing stages there to do that. Obviously ran second behind Galopin de Champ in the Gold Cup last year. And I thought he was a little bit out of position last year. I think he ran quite well. I reckon, given the right season this year, he will be able to put it down to Galopin de Champ come March. And if that's to be true, he really should be winning this. But Gordon Elliott gave him the entry in the Charlie Hall, didn't he? He's been publicly talking about the fact that he wants the grounds to be easier than good. So the course had been sort of watering for there. But it is a bit of a concern, isn't it, that 3 miles round Down Royal for a horse like Jerry Colomb could be a little bit on the sharp side. And given the fact that he is going to be going back for a Gold Cup, he's 4 to 6 in this. It's a bit risky to be sort of betting him in here. I still expect him to win. I still think he'll go in here. But Hewitt's probably quite interesting with the fact that he also had a Charlie Hall entry, but they supplemented him to come in here instead. Might actually look like a bit of an easier task for Hewitt. The ground will suit him down to the ground. And who knows, if Jerry Colombe doesn't run, because Gordon said that could happen, then it's an easier race for Hewitt. Again, he's only going to have Envoy Land to beat. But I couldn't possibly be tipping or betting anything in this race. I just want to see Jerry Colombe win, but I'm a little bit worried he might not have the conditions to do it. So it's going to be a fascinating race to watch, but all eyes for me are on Jerry Colombe.
Yeah, don't have to have a bet in every race. Just watch and enjoy for Dave. Andrew, do you have a betting alternative?
Yeah, have a bet in every race. Betting's fun. But bet responsibly.
When the fun stops.
I think if you're going to have a bet, then back in Envoy Island, maybe even each way, set, quarter of the odds 1-2, with 5 runners, 7 to 2 at the moment. If you could end up getting 4 to 1, that would be quite handy. Now he was beaten the neck last year by Jerry Colombe when he'd had a prep run at the end of September. So he's got a fantastic record when fresh, and you see, won this 2 years ago when he didn't have a prep run. He's only lost once on his seasonal debut, I think, in 6 seasons that he's been racing. So he's had five wins from 6 starts and a third to easy game on his seasonal debuts, a win and a neck second in this race. And if we're saying Jerry Colombe, they're worried about the ground, and why not go Envoy Alan as a sporting bet for the price of a lottery ticket?
There it is.
Hey.
So that's a way to play it then for you. The price of a lottery ticket, take on that fab at the head of the market in the grade 2, grade 1 at Champion Chase at Down Royal. Right now, we do have grade 2 action up next at Wetherby again. The Charlie Hall Chase, of course, 5-year-olds and over 3 miles. Comes up at 2:58. Brave Man's Game heading the way for that man, Paul Nicholls. So, Andrew, you're surely taking him on.
Yeah, and I'm taking him on because he was chinned in this race last year, and he's now gone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 races in a row without winning. So I don't want to back a horse at 11 to 8 with a profile like that in a grade 2 race. Everyone knows I'm in love with Great Dawning. So napped him at Cheltenham last year, said he'd win this season's Cheltenham Gold Cup. I'm still hopeful, unless they turn that into a veterans handicap. Then I think he's got a great chance. The downside, obviously, is that he might need the run. Although, if you look back to his seasonal debuts, he was the winner first time out in a bumper. He got chinned the following season on his debut, but that was his first run ever over hurdles, and he made some mistakes. And then last season, he finished third at Exeter. That was a cracking race, wasn't it? And again, it was his chase debut, so he lacked the experience. Whether it was lack of peak fitness that beat him on those last 2 seasonal debuts, or lack of experience jumping hurdles and fences, is difficult to say. But it was still no disgrace to finish third to Stay Away Fair, the changing man in that contest at Exeter. So I'm going to go Grey Dawning. It might be a case of he'll improve for it, and we won't see the best of him until later in the season. But I love him. I'm tipping him. There you go.
Your absolute heart horse is Grey Dawning for Andrew, and thinks the world of him. So hopefully that will come to the fore again. Dave, who's your heart horse? Are they in here?
I don't know. I definitely don't have a heart horse in it. Jerry Colombe from the Champion Chase would probably be the season's heart horse, but I'll let you know what happens after that race if I still love him or not. This is an absolute cracker. This is one that we genuinely could have a whole episode on this one, and I've got quite romantic with this one too. The mad thing is, right, it's a grade 2, so there are like penalties and stuff that are in there. So we'll quickly just very, very quick. It's not very many runners. The weight adjusted ratings. Conflated comes out as 171. Brave Man's Game comes out as 170. Hang in there comes in 163. The Real Whacker comes in at 161. Sam Brown comes in at 160. Grey Dawning comes in at 158. And then French Dynamite comes out at 151. So you've got Conflated, the 10-year-old that hasn't won since 2022. And you've got Brave Man's Game, who was second in a King George, who was second in a Betfair Chase, and was second in a Charlie Hall Chase. And I get what Andrew's saying about the fact that he has got a string of numbers next to his name that don't read 1. But the race last year, right, loads of people gave Harry Cobden a bit of stick saying that he could have won the race, didn't they? Paul Nicholls was very much afterwards just like, look, this is a prep run. The King George is his main target. And then they weren't necessarily forced into running at Haydock, but they ran him at Haydock, which wasn't initially the plan.
Well, the owner Brian Drew insisted, and when I did a Cheltenham preview with him in February, he said that he messed up. He insisted. Paul Nicholls wasn't happy, and he's messed it up. So.
Well, exactly that, and obviously there was the small bit of punishment there, wasn't there? That Daryl Jacob took the ride. They wouldn't send Harry up there, and he went and had some winners. I think it was probably at Ascot that weekend as well. But I just mean that, like, they obviously left a bit in the Charlie Hall last year, but he's not going to make the same mistake again. Grey Dawning, just to quickly loosely talk on him, Dan Skelton's already come out and said that this is a prep run for the Betfair Chase, and they've said, I think we can have him a little bit short for his first run. He won't be going there unfit, but there will be a bit to work on for the Betfair Chase. And as I said, on those weight adjusted ratings, he's already got £13 to find with Brave Man's Game. But going back to Brave Man's Game, obviously I talked about those few races where he's had seconds. You know, Willie Mullins obviously won the Trainers' Championship. A lot gets missed about the fact that Dan Skelton nabbed Paul Nicholls, didn't he? In the ITV Series Champions Full Gallop, when they did episode 4 at the Cheltenham Festival, you saw Paul Nicholls was devastated when Grey Dawning beat Ginny's Destiny, which me and Andrew knew was going to happen anyway, but he actually said a swear word on TV. Then Stage Star flopped a bit in the Ryanair, didn't he? And Protectorate went and won him, and you could just see he just looked devastated. And if we talk about those seconds that he had, a little bit unlucky in the King George, although Shishkin would have beat him if he stood up, so we'll leave it still sat there. They dropped 35,000 in prize money in this race last year by coming second, 70 grand at Haydock for coming second to Royal Pagaille, and 90 grand at Kempton when he probably could have won a King George. He finished the season just 70 grand behind Dan Skelton. So all that said, I know there's talk about Paul Nicholls at the start of the season and his form and things like that, but we saw what he did with Rabode. I know Stage Star got beat in the Old Rome, but he jumped beautifully. He doesn't like Aintree. Paul Nicholls is a very smart and shrewd trainer. We don't even need to say that. It's mad that I'm having to. He's going to have Brave Man's Game 100% cherry ripe for this. They potentially can just swerve the Betfair Chase and go back to Haydock because he'll be fine with it. But there is no way he's going to allow this horse to get beat first time up this season. I'm absolutely adamant of it. It's one of those things. You could see how fuming he was last year. As much as Grey Dawning in the market is the chief rival, that's where the way that Paul Nicholls might see this. It might make it even more the fact that he doesn't want to get beat. But none of the others could really get close. Conflated's the one that could be interesting, and he's a bigger price. But I just don't see how Paul Nicholls lets Brave Man's Game get beat in this. And like I say, he was open enough to say last year that he wasn't necessarily fully wound up. He will be fully wound up for this. I've got no worry about the yard form or anything. We saw Quebecois go and dot up at Chepstow. And these types of horses are slightly different ones. It's one of the biggest targets at the start of the season. And I'm confident that Brave Man's Game will absolutely dot up. A couple of years ago when he did win it, the year before that, I think it was, Vindication was backed into favouritism against Cerner. We had the same weird thing going on where people thought a 170s horse was going to get beat by like a 150s horse. Brave Man's Game, I'm confident, will win the Charlie Hall Chase.
He's had a wind up as well, which he had before winning this 2 years ago when he beat Eldorado Allen.
Yeah, exactly. So everything points to he's going to go in for a big, bold show. And I know with the form stuff, we can say, oh, we had a horse beating a novice hurdle at Hereford the other day. We're not talking about a grade 2, and we're not talking about, he's probably the best horse that Paul Nicholls has got in his yard as well. So I don't see how he gets him beat. Odds against for Brave Man's Game just looks an absolute gift. So I'm quite sweet on Brave Man's Game.
I can tell, very sweet on it and confident behind Brave Man's Game. Paul Nicholls is going to rewrite the wrong then here on Brave Man's Game's reappearance in the Grade 2 Charlie Hall Chase. Right, back to Ascot now for the 3:15 handicap hurdle, 3-year-olds and over 2 miles. 5-1 joint favourites in here, Fiercely Proud and the dear old Secret Squirrel in here as well, Dave. So who wins it?
Yeah, plenty of Jericho de Repene form boost potentially in there, isn't there? It's really bad because I think I'm going to lose all credibility because there's another Paul Nicholls horse I like in here. Quickly before I say that though, Fiercely Proud for Ben Paulin obviously got loose before the race that he ran at Cheltenham. He was smashed from 5-2 into 6-4. Everyone was saying that he was going to go and win that race, and the fact that he got withdrawn, we don't know what the result is. I think people still believe that was true. Ben Paulin said that it was a prep run for the Greatwood. And not that you could predict that the horse was going to be unruly at the start, but Ben Paulin's also said in the past that this horse can get above himself. So I think he will need a run, and obviously getting loose was obviously not ideal.
At least he got loose for at least kind of the way that he got loose. It was Callum Pritchard's. I don't think the pin went in his stirrup iron. So as soon as he stood up in the irons, it just went. I don't think he mustn't have put the pin back in because, and at least he went far enough to kind of get a bit of a run into him. Not obviously a race run, but at least he did get some sort of freshness taken off of him, I guess.
Well, exactly, and that's the thing with this race, right? So the fact he's 5-2 at the time of recording, he's 9-2 generally. There are 4 places up for grabs, purely based of how much market support there was last time. And I know this is probably a harder race than last time, but Ben Paulins also said that he runs well right-handed on a flat track. Now I know Ascot's not flat, but Cheltenham's left and undulating, and he was well backed there. This potentially should suit him a little bit more. He looks almost like a freebie knocking each way bet because of the fact that he was so well supported. So he definitely needs a bit of a mention, but I was keen to take him on last time, and I kind of feel stupid to not take him on again, although he is tempting at the price. But the one that I will go for is Affadil for Paul Nicholls. Now, the start of last season at Chepstow, he was favourite for their 4-year-old handicap hurdle. The ground was terrible. He didn't run. He then went to Cheltenham, ran behind our champ, I think it was, for Freddie Gordon. He was 9-2 favourite that day, or joint favourite, and just didn't particularly go out very well. Went in the Greatwood after, but he just had a fairly busy season for a juvenile that was then going out into the big wide world of open company. He did see out the end of his juvenile season, though. He was only a couple of lengths behind Blue King Drew, and we know how highly rated that horse is. Blue King Drew ran really well at Aintree after that. Affadil himself, after that run, went and won a handicap hurdle. I just think he's marked now. I don't know. I think he's in the 120s still. It just looks like so criminally lowly rated, and they would have probably just put a line through last season. Although he got a win at Musselburgh, didn't he? He went okay. Freddie Gingle takes off another few pounds as well. I just feel like him at 20-1 just looks absolutely absurd. This might not be the time to catch him, but he has gone well fresh before, and Chepstow at the start of last season was his big aim. Having missed that and then going to Cheltenham, although he's slightly disappointed there, it may just be that he was a little bit past his sell-by date for the fact that he was ready first time at Chepstow. So 20-1 Affadil just looks stupid, so I've got to have a bit of a go on him.
20-1, another Paul Nicholls runner there. But yeah, Affadil this time round, though. Freddie Gindle taking the £3 off of his back. Andrew, who'd you like?
Yeah, good race for front runners this recently. We've had 3 of the last 5 winners made all. Gumball in 2019, Kid Commander in 2020, Highway 102 a couple of years ago. Knickerbocker Glory was basically one of 2 who disputed the lead last year. It was only like the hold-up Soaring Glory in 2021 who spoiled the party. Looking at and again, aged 5 to 7 seems to be key as well. Now, Tapley made the running last time out, was scoring at Fontwell, but it's never backed up a win. 0 from 4, so I'd worry about that one. But also talk about stable form. Chris Gordon's really struggling at the moment. It's 147 days and 47 runners since a winner. I've got his yard, Christian Williams' yard, and Nicholls' yard on the sort of swerve list at the moment. Secret Squirrel's got a good record when fresh. He's on the short list. Right, so Tom's interesting, having left Willie Mullins now. Joe Tizard did make the running on occasions when with Mullins. Jour d'Evasion sounds like a poor French tribute band. But for Henry Daly, that one can make it. But Break My Soul's another front runner, Nicky Henderson. The one I'm going to come down the side of is Fiercely Proud, really because of his record when fresh. His first 2 runs each season, 4 wins from 4 starts. Now, he tends to be ridden a little bit more patiently than recent winners, but he did go from the front or very near the front at Kempton 2 runs ago when second, and only the time before went third to Jericho de Reprenay, when Jericho de Reprenay was odds on, looked sure to be chinned for much of the race, and then came and broke my heart late on. But I'll go Fiercely Proud. I do like that record when fresh. But it's a good race, this, and one of the more interesting ones. I'm going to have to do a Nicholls multiple, because if he ends up going through the car, I'm going to look like a right idiot. But I've got 100 grand for a multiple bet. It will take the pain away.
Could you imagine? Yeah, you'll be happy to come on next week's show then if that is the case. Yeah, Paul Nicholls runner, but Fiercely Proud there for the main play for Andrew in that 3:15 at Ascot. Right, back to Wetherby again. For the 3:32, a 0 to 140 handicap hurdle, 3 odds and over 2 miles. 9 for the field in this one, Andrew, and again, pretty competitive.
Yeah, I have to admit to have done absolutely minimal work on this race, so I'm going to pay my get out of jail free card and pass.
With 10 races on offer, you are definitely allowed a get out of jail free card. So Andrew has utilised his. Dave, would you like to also, or have you got an opinion?
No, 100%. We should all boycott the 332 at Wetherby. For this reason alone is why we should boycott it. It's still classed as a 0 to 140. The highest rated runner this year is 126. The last few years has been 128, 131, 132, 130. Just call it a 130 and have done with it. It's I obviously have a bee in my bonnet about that type of stuff. The only one that I did slightly, if you don't want to boycott, you would have a very small win dart, is Alnalam for Ollie Murphy and Sean Bowen. He's a real mixed bag of a horse, but he was sent off just 9 to 2 for the Class 2 2.5 mile at Aintree when he all but pulled up. He's beaten a 119 rated horse before, giving away £10. His other win came when he battered Ted 2, who I think's won twice after and is now rated in the 120. He did get a bit of weight from him that day, but he should be better than the type of rating that he is. And given the fact that it's not, a 0 to 140, it's a 0 to 126. I think he might have a little bit of a squeak in him. He's a top price 16 to 1. He's very much like a bit of a rogue of a horse. You don't know what you're going to get, but at least he actually has got his head in front, and it's not by short margins he's dotted up. So I'd have a very small price of a very small lottery ticket on Alnalam.
Alnalam for the small price of a lottery ticket.
We're talking the British lottery instead of Euro Millions, then, is that what?
Yeah, is that what it is in comparison, or just your local village one?
Oh yes. Well, don't do the postcode lottery. That's a proper mugs game.
I have never even looked into it, to be honest, so I'll have to take your word for that. Right, we have skipped past then that 0 to 140/130 then at Wetherby. Onto our final scheduled race at Ascot, the 345, the Sodexo Live Gold Cup Handicap Chase, the Premier Handicap, 4-year odds and over 3 miles. Chianti Classico is back out in this one, Davies. 3 to 1 top price. Kim Bailey's got a couple of runners in here, but who do you like?
I mean, there's loads to like, isn't there? Kim Bailey did say, I think it was on Sky Sports Racing or at the races, that obviously 2 for Gold has pretty much been his last season, and the owners have got a box at Ascot, so that was basically the reason why he was running. But I think he comes second in the race last year, so that might be a bit dismissive to him. But obviously, he touched on Chianti Classico as well. He didn't seem to be massively negative about him, which, I mean, you wouldn't expect him to be, but it wasn't like they were looking at this thinking he's going in here and we're just sort of testing the water. I think he's coming in with a bit of a chance. Traffic Flew Wide in 2018 is the last top weight winner of this that I can remember, and then Kim Bailey took it the year after with Vindication. So those 2 lines alone mean, and we know how good he was in that Ultima as well. Like he definitely deserves to be favourite in here, but I don't think I could be betting him at that sort of price. He's a horse that is course and distance winner as well. And he made a mistake. I think he pecked at the first, was like quite a big price in running that day. And if he did make a mistake at Ascot, I don't think you get away with it. So he won't do that. Al Power is really interesting because he won this race a couple of years ago off a £7 lower mark. He's had a bit of a break. He's got reasonable form though on good ground as well. So like again, he deserves to be towards the top of the market, and you could give him a bit of a chance. Sam Thomas as well. We know that he's readied quite a few horses up for these connections first time up and done it well. So if there was money for him, that would speak volumes. One that I'm drawn to at a bigger price is Phlegmatic for Dan Skelton. His last win came when beating Chianti Classico at Kempston. He was getting £8. So this way round, I think he gets £5, and Tristan Dole claims another £3 on top of that. So because of what Chianti Classico's done, Phlegmatic is now definitely weighted to reverse the form with him again, potentially. He unseated in this race last year at the very last fence. And he wasn't really getting close to winning the race, but he was still running well. He then came back he came back twice. He came back in between at 2 mile 5 on good ground, ran all right, managed to complete, was just behind Boothill, I think. And then he ran behind Victorino, who took this race last year and then won the December race as well. But Harry Skelton did the same sort of thing as Kieran Geffins did the first time up. They kept him on the inside rail. He was plugging on, and he was just picking up the pieces near the time. Look, I think there's probably a couple of horses that probably are better suited to this race than him and might be better handicapped, but I think he'll be there or thereabouts. He just needs a little bit of luck. 20 to 1 looks too big. He's had a prep run at Chepstow, so I think that'll help. So I think Phlegmatic is ripe for a bold show at 20 to 1.
The outsider of the field, Phlegmatic. Yeah, it was chaos in this race last year. Those 2 fallers at the last, and then I think about 4 unseated around them from getting involved in the pile-up. Luckily, everyone was okay from it, but hoping for some more luck this time around. 20 to 1 shot for Dave. Andrew, who do you like?
Yeah, this is the race of the day for me. I really like this one. I mean, Chianti Classico, the ultimate winner, found out by Grade 1 company next time out at Aintree. But since his rules debut, his record below grade 2 level is 7 wins and a second from 8 starts. That's second to Phlegmatic, as Dave mentioned, at Kempton, where Phlegmatic is a real course expert. Now, Phlegmatic's yet to win at Ascot, but as Dave says, he's got lots of useful form here, particularly when the ground's good or good to soft at worst. I mean, I think Phlegmatic is the kind of horse you could run well in the King George if it was on good ground, seek third at 50 to 1 or something like that. So, I'm going to sort of certainly play Phlegmatic each way or place only, and sort of stick him in some trifecta combinations. Chianti Classico I do like despite the weight, and of course the old boy 2 for Gold, had a wind up since we last saw him. It might be 11, but we've seen Regal Encore win this as a 12-year-old. He was second last year, so I think I'll sort of play Chianti Classico, 2 for Gold, and Phlegmatic in combination exactas and a trifecta. I don't think 3 to 1 I could be bothered to back Chianti Classico, win only under top weight. I'll be cheering on the 3 of them to finish 1, 2, 3 in any order.
Nice ways to play that race, and really competitive Premier Handicap chase, isn't it? So multiple ways to play.
Although I'll probably need the Nichols horse solo for about 250 grand by this stage, because I'll have done my 2p Nichols multiple just in case.
Just in case it all comes good then for that yard. Right, Andrew, I'll go back to you, please. Anything from anywhere else? Any other Nichols horses to throw into any multiples?
No, I did have a quick look at Newmarket, but I'll leave it for now.
Newmarket still on every single Saturday. Just won't let it go, will they? Dave, who do you or anywhere else that you want to take us to?
No, there's just good racing all around in there, but I haven't had enough chance to look at it properly yet.
We've already done 10 races, so I'm not surprised at all. Dave, then, your nap, please, for the weekend.
Brave
I'm guessing Brave Fans?
Yeah, Brave Man's Game. Honestly, I genuinely think anything odds against, I'm happy to pay the price to look a fool if he's beat, but I think he absolutely romps him.
Okay, Brave Man's Game and the Charlie Hall. Andrew, I'm trying to hazard a guess here of what you might be napping, but I can't think quick enough in time.
It's not, to be honest, I've not bet anything yet, and I'm sort of struggling for a nap. I was thinking of Fiercely Proud, given that sort of 4 from 4 record on his first 2 runs each season. I'm going to go for one at a bigger price. Issar Dairy for the Josh and Gary show in the 205 at Ascot, around about 16 to 1. Good record, fresh. Ichi Wazy.
For that comedy double act, we'll allow you that one then. So a nice price to boot as well for Andrew's nap. Right, that is everything from us on what's been a blockbuster show. All 10 races then covered, but again, do head to the lads' columns for any other tips or insights that they may want to provide us. But a big thank you to the lads for all of their hard work. Big thank you to you for watching, and we'll speak to you again next week.